No one would have believed such a thing could happen, that a lion, the king of the jungle, a being whose eyes pierced the darkness and whose roar made the mountains tremble. But now, he lay motionless on the ground, covered in blood. The sun had not yet risen. Darkness curved like a thin line across the horizon, and a strange heaviness hung in the air. It was as if nature had foreseen a catastrophe that had not yet happened. The earth was dry and cracked, but now it had turned into a blood-sucking sponge. Just beneath that once glorious body, blood stained the earth a deep red. The silence was ear-splitting. No birdsong, no rustle of leaves, just the desperate fluttering of a paw caught in the cruel cold of a trap. The lion's eyes were still open. He was not dead. But his eyes were no longer looking at the kingdom, but at the void. Do you think a lion is still a king when he has lost his kingdom? Write what you think in the comments. I am very curious about your point of view. The lion's paw was crushed. Flesh was separated from bone, torn to shreds in the iron trap. Every breath was torture for him. Every time he exhaled, his mane trembled, his muffled moans mingled with the ghosts of the forest. This loneliness, this pain, it was not just a hunting scene. This was the fall of power. Do you think the hardest thing in life is losing your power or not being able to ask for help? But the strange thing, the creepy thing, was that something was there watching him. An unseen presence. A huge shape in the shadow. It didn't seem to be breathing, but it was there. It was approaching, quietly. Its footsteps were indistinct, but deliberate. This was not the step of a hunter. It was the movement of something thinking, and that something was not a man. Who do you think would come to help the king of the forest? A man? Another animal, or someone we never expected? The first rays of the sun were just beginning to filter through the thick foliage of the forest. But this brightness brought not peace, but a greater tension. Because that morning the forest was not only waking up, but also holding its breath. Not even the branches of the trees moved. The air was heavy, like the suffocating silence before a storm erupts. The lion lay still. His paw was still shattered between the iron teeth of the trap. His body trembled with every breath, the pain now part of his body. But his eyes, still alive. Still alert. There was something more than fear in his eyes now, intuition. He felt something approaching, and it came. A muscular silhouette emerging from the mists with heavy steps. A gigantic gorilla. He walked not like an ordinary animal, but like a warrior. His eyes focused on the lion in the trap. Normally, an encounter with a lion would be a threat to any animal. But this encounter was different. The threat was not the lion. The threat was much more humanly woven, humans and the traps they set. The gorilla approached. The lion did not growl at him, because he understood. This was not an enemy, but perhaps an unexpected ally. They locked eyes. A brief but intense moment. Those glances spoke volumes. It was as if two warriors were weighing each other's courage on the front line. The gorilla bent down. He examined the perimeter of the trap. He carefully placed his hands around the steel teeth. The iron was slippery with blood, but the gorilla was strong. Slowly, step by step, he began to open the arms of the trap. The lion moaned but did not move. It was as if he knew what had to be done. Finally, there was a click. The trap was open. The lion did not immediately jump away. His paw was still in bad shape. But he took a few steps back and put his tired body down. He turned his eyes to the gorilla. A look of gratitude, but then there was a sound that changed everything. The safety on a gun was released. The gorilla turned its head quickly. There was movement in the trees. There was a man with a gun slung over his shoulder. His eyes behind the bright binocular lenses. A stealthy hunter, targeting both lion and gorilla. Human, why do you think this hunter was there? The hunter was about to pull the trigger. But the gorilla moved first. With an earth-shaking leap, it lunged at the gunman. The gun went off, but the bullet missed its target. A scream, followed by a howling silence. The forest fell silent once more. The lion was watching what was happening. His eyes now held the traces of both salvation and danger. His body trembled, but he stood up. His wounded paw barely gripped the earth, but he was standing. He looked once more at the gorilla approaching him, but this time something else happened. Other silhouettes began to emerge from the forest. 4 more men with guns. Masks on their faces, rifles on their shoulders. This was not just a hunter, but an organized hunting operation. A gang, perhaps a network that was destroying all the animals in this area, cashing them in on the black market. The lion's heartbeat quickened. The image blurred. The loss of blood was making him dizzy. But an instinct, something kept him going. This was no longer just his life. The gorilla had spotted the men coming. He was about to charge forward. But this time he would not be alone. The lion was with him. He was wounded, but proud. He was born to fight, not to die. Subscribe to our channel to watch more. What will these two do against their enemies? Who do you think will win this battle? Don't forget to write in the comments. Deep in the forest, the silence of death reigned. A lion and a gorilla, who only moments before had tried to survive together, were now facing each other again, but this time the enemy was not each other, but humans. Hunters were approaching, weapons in hand. The metal trap had been replaced by a greater threat. The gorilla stepped forward in all its majesty. The lion, still in pain, kept his eyes on him. They both could have run away, but they didn't. Because this was no longer just a fight for life, but a stand. The gorilla's eyes met the lion's for a brief moment, and perhaps in that moment, they told each other everything. Their loss, their pain, their distrust of humans. The hunters approached. But something unexpected happened. Other animals emerged from the trees and quietly surrounded the area, an elephant, some zebras, monkeys. It was as if the forest was claiming its own. At that moment, the hunters retreated. The silence returned again, but this time it was the silence of peace. The gorilla slowly retreated. The lion accompanied him for a short while, limping. They turned and looked at each other one last time. Perhaps they would never meet again. But hidden in that look was a promise: we are not enemies, and what would you do if you were? When you hear a creature's cry for help, do you turn your back or do you reach out your hand? Write in the comments. Because this story is not just an incident in the forest. It is a mirror of our conscience. Lions and gorillas don't normally fight. But this time they fought together. Maybe nature wants to tell us something: the real enemy is not each other. Maybe the only enemy is our lack of compassion. How did this scene make you feel? Was the lion stronger or the gorilla who helped him? Add a line to the story in the comments. Who knows, maybe your idea will start a new story.